Hello, good afternoon.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Hey, Priscilla, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much, Holly and Denise, for having me in your podcast today. I feel privileged and humble to be here.
Well, girl, I feel excited that you're here. And the topic that I want to say to everybody that Priscilla writes about is trauma bonding and how do we heal from the trauma bond? And the first thing we're going to talk about is what on earth is a trauma bond? Before we get into that, let's be sure that for folk that are joining us, maybe you've been coming for 5 years, maybe this is your first time, we welcome you. We're glad you're here. The purpose of this program is to have heart to heart, honest, informed conversations about being trauma survivors and how can I, as a trauma survivor, live my life not defined by the trauma, but not denying the trauma. You know, I am an incest survivor. I am a abuse survivor. I blacked out because the abuse was so strong. I took care of my mother who was mentally ill. I had a childhood which was like many children's childhoods, but we didn't talk about it. So I thought I was the strange one. In fact, I'm not. In the early childhood field, 58% of us were traumatized as children. And I think we could probably, if that research were done on elementary education, what do you think, Denise? You were in elementary education. Do you think
Yep,
it might go there too?
I'm sure it's, yeah, at least half the people.
Yeah. And what have you experienced, Priscilla, as you've worked with families and you've worked with schools and children? Do you feel like families in particular are traumatized themselves?
Oh, absolutely. And they bring it into their spaces. I think educators are traumatized. A lot of us carry trauma wounds, one way or the other.
One way or the other. So the question is, how can we? I love that there's a quote. I just got the essence of it. It's like those mountains we're carrying, we were meant to climb. So all that stuff we're carrying, I'll speak for myself, all that stuff I'm carrying is meant for me to learn from if I choose that. And for me, surviving trauma and living my life is about making choices. So making the choice to be free. It's about making the courageous choice to decide to face the things I don't want to face. I don't want to look back at those dreadful experiences in childhood. And yet, by getting help and facing them, I can come to see that the terror that I had then was terribly real, but it does not have to dominate me now. Just because my brain is good at shutting down doesn't mean my soul, my heart have to shut down. So, welcome everybody. We invite you to join us either by chat if you want to. We'll read the chat and read what you're saying. You can join us in person if you want to. And many of you, we think at this point, most of you are joining us after the fact. So just feel free to comment to Denise or me. And I think, Priscilla, are you okay if people reach out to you?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So Denise, we have a basic thing about being safe. What are the points you feel that would help us stay safe if we talk about some triggering things?
So, safety, water. We always bring water with us both. And now I'm sure, Priscilla, do you have a glass of water near?
Right here. I got my
Right
tea.
on.
All
So
right.
it always helps to take a big swig. And also, there another solution, if you can't reach out to us, you can get on your Google phone and say warm line for trauma survivors. And it will give you phone numbers in every state that are helpful.
Yeah, you can call up, you can either call them up or you can text. Some of the warm lines, some of them are 24/7, some of them are limited. But what you're going to do if you call or text is find another person who's a trauma survivor, whose focus is to be curious, not to judge, whose focus is to say, I'm here confidentially. Tell me what you feel you need to talk about. I'm here to listen. I'm here to help. I'm here to understand. Not as a professional necessarily, but as a peer. So we always want to let you guys know about that up front because sometimes Denise and I get triggered. Didn't that happen last week, Denise?
Yes.
What were we
We're both like
talking about? That, oh my goodness.
drinking a lot
Yeah.
of water.
Oh my goodness. And Priscilla, so for you, what helps you? I know you have a lot of things that you do, but what's one thing that helps you when you start to feel like, oh my God, I'm in the midst of something, and now all of these creepy, awful, bonded feelings are coming over me? What's one thing that works for you besides the drinking of water and reaching out for help?
So I drink water. I also have these things here that I actually have in my, because like you guys said, in certain spaces, they all show up. It's like they creep up in your body. You start feeling them. So, and I start reminding myself, it's not you, it's what they did to you. And it's fair and I can understand, but you got this. So positive affirmation, reminding me. And even as I verbalizing it and I'm still saying it loud to you guys, I'm starting to feel comfortable in this space.
Yes.
Trauma is when I'm able to speak about a lot of things, but when we're talking about trauma, it's fair to say that some feelings can still live in us. And how do we go about it? And it's okay to
Thank you.
take space and say, I need a minute.
It certainly is. And just tell us, for folk that don't know, what are you holding in your hands?
I have these magnetics fidget balls, and they have different texture and they connect with each other. So when I'm in different spaces, I'm able to put them together and touch them. Some people use stress ball. You could just, yeah.
That
It
looks
keeps you.
great. And Denise, when you were a preschool teacher, Priscilla, Denise was like 32 years as a Head Start teacher. We're doing a wonderful job and really letting those children know I am safe. I
Right.
am here.
That's one of the things that I practiced yesterday. I want to tell you about that.
Yeah.
I am here, I am safe, and then I breathed. And because I went to my brother-in-law's birthday party. Do you want to hear the story?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I went to my brother-in-law's birthday party, and when I arrived at my mom's house, which Priscilla, I lived away from my family for 35 years on the other side of the country. I did that intentionally to heal. So I came back in 2011, and I've been back like 14 years, and my mom still thinks I just got back. It's interesting,
What does
but
that
she's
mean, Denise? What does that mean
89.
that she still thinks you just got back? What does that mean to you?
She she tells me things like, "Oh, this is where we go to the grocery store. This is things that like I know now, that, but she acts as if I wouldn't know. It's interesting. She's 89. She's fully capable, but she likes to talk bad about other people, and I get triggered every time. I get upset and my jaw clenches, and I don't want to talk, which that is my trauma bonding effect, I believe, because I don't want her to reject me, so I don't say anything. But we have a little sister who was born when I was 19 who has always talked back to her, always. And so when I got arrived, I found out that my mom and my other sister are not speaking over a Mother's Day slight. So my mom didn't believe that my sister Casey, um, her family takes most of my mom's criticism nowadays. That's who my mom liked to talk bad about, mostly my sister's husband. But so I I was driving home from where we were partying, and I just I knew that, I felt a little twinge, and I just told myself, I am here, I am safe. And I breathed, and I told her that, uh, oh, she said, I missed Casey at the party because it was a family party, and which she didn't. Like she lies sometimes too. She didn't miss her. She's mad at her. So what I said was, I waited a couple minutes, and then I said, she did wish you a happy Mother's Day, because my mom's trying to act like she didn't. And then my mom got triggered and said, through you. And I said, she also sent cookies that's Katie's thing. That's our grand niece, the younger woman. But both I and Katie mentioned that the Happy Mother's Day was from everybody. They're a family unit. It was from all of them, and I told my mom that too. And she's like, oh. And but I remained calm. And what did I say next? I gotta remember. Hold on, I'm getting all excited. Oh, so then was the best part. I said, did you wish Casey a happy Mother's Day? Did you wish Katie a happy Mother's Day? Did you wish Jerry a happy Mother's Day? Because she does tend to be narcissist, so she thinks she's the only mother in the Queen of Mothers or something. And she goes, no. I go, well, maybe that's what's wrong. And then I was done. And it was
Wow.
so good. I didn't get all excited. I just, so that's after 14 years of healing, being with her and catching myself with that simple phrase, I am here, I am safe.
Brava, brava. And Priscilla, what in part, what's behind this is that anger for Denise is really,
Forbidden.
yes. Yeah, it's not Wakanda. It's like, back off. It's
Right.
like,
No, anger
I,
is like my least comfortable sensation or feeling. I avoid it at all costs. But I recognize that my jaw and my body, so I'm like, oh, I do have anger. There it is. So
yeah.
yeah, that was kind of good. Good reflection. So then when I drove home, I left the radio off and because it's a 2 hour drive, and I just got to reflect on, wow, look at me. I am learning and growing.
I gotta
Yippee,
give you,
yippee.
I gotta give you a lot of credit and a pat in the back, basically, for staying calm and recognizing what the best response was in the moment for it to work for both of you guys, and
Right,
creating that, what I say, invisible boundary kind of coping
right,
mechanism to make sure that you guys had a continue the conversation.
right. I still didn't go with the anger because normally I get angry, my jaw, my body, even though I wasn't recognizing that it was anger. And then I won't talk to her. I won't say anything. But this time I took a moment and spoke my truth. The truth that I knew that my sister did wish her a happy Mother's Day. And I knew that my sister's feelings were hurt because my mom doesn't wish her a happy Mother's Day. So I was able to make that at least intellectual connection for my
Yes.
mom.
Now, I do have a question, right? Because you say anger, and I'm just curious, just and for those who are also listening to us, I am a trauma therapist, and one of the things that I try to connect also is the feelings with what happened to us. And you saying anger, and as you're speaking, I'm thinking like it could have been also fear. It could have been, like you said, and you had the courage to say
Right,
something. But sometimes in some spaces, it could be scary and we could become anxious and get all these feelings because we don't know what the right word. Because no matter what you say in those moments, it could either be good or bad because
right,
you don't understand how the person is. And so I was brought up with a narcissistic dad. Um, in the Latino culture, they call it red bone Pentecostal. And I also moved to Massachusetts with nobody looking to heal. And I want to say that I started healing since I put a feet on, till I arrive. And yes, so I said we become courage and understand the limits in certain areas. So I
right. I think fear is at the bottom of it also, the fear of being rejected out of the family, which that is why. So here's another trauma bonding example. When I was in high school, I was a junior in high school, and my sister, just younger than me, reported that Jack, our stepfather, which I call him evil stepfather, she reported to the school counselor that uh, he was molesting us. And so they came to me, and I was like, oh no, no, nothing happening here. So I had to endure an additional year of abuse, of incest, because I protected him instead of my sister. But my sister's role in the family was the crazy one. So that, my mom had already developed that in us, that role for my sister. So it was easier for me to reject her truth and stay with, the abuse. Interestingly, that's trauma. That's what I think of as trauma bonding.
I agree, because you thought you did what was best for everyone in that space, right? Your
Right,
sister already had a reputation, and she was also like, her behaviors were saying something, but you weren't aware.
right,
And you thought you were right. I believe that many people, and I'm sorry this happened to you, but I believe that many people that goes through that, that's the first thing, because a lot of the people that hurt us is related, it's close by.
right,
And we still want to protect us because they say, this is for the best of you, or I'm going to get you these things. And they create this cycle of manipulation and gaslighting and all this. I speak about it. The 7 stages of trauma bonding has to do with that manipulation, love
right,
bombing. Yes.
right.
Yeah, and I love that a person's book, whom we all know, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, right here in Massachusetts. When he wrote The Body Keeps the Score, he also wrote The Real War is at Home. People used to think of PTSD, shell shock, as only being related to horrific events, which of course could only be across the world in some war zone. The truth is, many of us were raised in war zones with minefields, with explosives. And that trauma bonding meant that I couldn't tell the truth to anybody. My most important job was to protect the family's reputation and to make sure that my narcissistic father looked really good in the community, and to make sure that my mentally ill mother looked acceptable. She was beautiful. She could look acceptable, but make sure no one caught on to what was going on. And so that force that binds children is so strong that it tells us what's the word? I command you, thou shalt protect the family above all. And notice what I'm doing with my hand before you even consider protecting yourself. So the kinds of things you guys both are talking about, Denise, I am here, I am safe. You could never have said that as a child because it wouldn't have been about you.
It wasn't true either.
That's
I
right. It
mean,
was not.
I wasn't there. I, dissociated, and I wasn't safe.
Yes. Yeah. And what did it take for both of you to get safe? What did it take for both of you, Priscilla, Denise, me, to feel like I am here? I'm here. Here. I'm safe. What did that take? What helped you the most?
Head Start program,
Because
because I was capable, and then became studying trauma informed education, and I studied Becky Bailey's conscious discipline, and I made my classroom a safe space, and I gave myself a happy childhood in my classroom.
and you were there.
Sounds Yeah, it sounds why early childhood it's so important. A lot of people will ask me like why, and I say because it allows me to bring the best part of my life back to vivid. Um,
Right.
and part of what motivated me was being a young mom. I was a mom at 17 years old. And at that point, I felt like my world was being. I was also a rebellious child. But I knew that that's not what I was meant to be. I went into nursing degree, and my nurse, head of nurse would say, Priscilla, you're so young, you still have. And I remember, I always say this, I remember my youngest daughter calling my oldest daughter a negative and an inappropriate word. And in our culture, hitting was the way that we got taught. So I remember wanting to go hit her, and like something stopped me, and like no, and said, she's modeling what you do. Like she's mirroring what you're doing. So who's gonna hit you? So that was a life changing. I knew that I needed to set an example for my children. And I needed to break the chains. I remember looking for faith, and in that faith, understanding like it's not, we do have to break intergenerational behaviors. And sometimes you hear it, but you just don't know how. Um, and as when I came to Massachusetts, when first I learned about mental health, it's not something that it's spoken a lot in my country, and where I was in the culture that I was in, mental health was not spoken at all. It was just so coming here after having a home invasion with my children and looking for that, and it was a family member, I was just done. And I want to say that it was looking for that security. I started understanding what mental health was. I also started questioning mental health, because there were places I will go and they'll say, you don't need us. And I'm like, what do you mean? My children's went through this. What do you mean? I have no family members here. I need help. And having to advocate for what I needed also helped me understand. I have two sisters who are cognitive intellectuals, and I needed to learn. I always was curious about the brain, and I think that that's what creates the beauty and everything in the spaces that I go. And it continues to motivate me when I speak with children and parents. My goal is, how do we make this better if we was to do it all over again?
And I'm listening to what you're saying because I'm always fascinated by what is it inside of us. And I'm going to invite you to consider this, Priscilla. What is it inside of you that said, I'm not going to repeat what happened to me? I'm not going to model for my babies that hitting is the way we take care of things. That was a brave choice. That was a pioneering choice, pioneering because you were the first to do it. And yet I believe you knew something in yourself was true. You knew the true part of yourself to go there. Denise has done this too. I've done this too, where there's something inside of us that we go to say, this is where I belong. All of this stuff that's pressuring me, no, that's not me. So I want to ask you, as you made that choice with your girls, and that's a big deal. So well, congratulations for that. To stop that whole abuse in place of talking about how we really do feel and how feelings hurt and how hurt people and all of that. Can you describe to us or help us understand what went on inside of you when you made that choice, that pivotal choice to say, I'm not going to do what was done to me. I'm not going to model that.
Absolutely. So I had a son and two daughters by the age of 21. Um, and I had my son by one partner and my daughters by another partner. And at 21, I wasn't with none of them. And I was scared. I was a single mom at 21 with two different partners. And one of the things I used to hear is, you're going to be just like your mom. You're going to have different partners in your life. And the stigma around it and the judgmental. And you're gonna one of the things that my daughter's father said to me once is, you're never gonna be nobody, you're always gonna be a hustler. um and I remember, and he said, and those things were the ones, like, I will reflect. I believe that we all, when we sit down and we reflect, we hold ourselves accountable, we accept, and we also know that there is space for growth. And I needed to teach that to my children. I was able, as so we studied together, we made challenges together, and I needed to show them, if I would have had what they had, I the fruits would have been what I have now. It has been a very rewarding experience to see the fruits of my planted seeds. I didn't went to prom, but I was able to have my son go to prom. Um, I didn't graduate it. I didn't went to a graduation right after high school, but I was able to enjoy that with my daughters. And that was the thing, me able to break those generational behaviors, me saying no, and also understand where they were coming from, because it's a pattern and we repeat. So I remember at one point, I didn't hit my kids, but I was probably yelling. And then I had to stop myself and understand, like, wait, I don't hit, but I hit, and that impacts the same way. So those were the things that, yeah, wanting something different.
And inside of yourself, what would you say your voice was saying to yourself when you made those choices, those pivotal choices, Priscilla? Like, I'm not going to hit my daughter. I'm not going to use words to hit my children. Any idea? And you mentioned spirituality. What is different about you than your dad? I mean, both of us have dads who are narcissistic. And I came after decades to realize and accept that part of the condition of narcissism means that my father could not reflect on himself. He had no capacity. And I devoted years to trying to be with him, to help him reflect on himself. And it was only in the end where his last act with me was to attempt. I mean, the man was almost 101 years old. It's very sad. And his last attempt was a power move with me. He was like a feeble body, but what he said to me is, come do this. And what this was a sexual act. A sexual act. I'm 60 something. He's 100 and something. And he's saying this. And inside of myself, my honest response was anger. I was outraged. I said, in control of my anger, because I got used to channeling my anger. It's made very powerful. I said, no, I will not do that. I will get you help if you need help. And I'm going to take a break now. I will be back later. But that, you see, what I'm getting toward here is that I see Denise reflecting on things that her mother, as you just said, Denise, isn't able to choose to do or isn't able to do. I see myself looking at myself, no longer to shame myself and say, bad dog, but instead to say, Holly Elissa, you're in a very tough situation right now. It doesn't mean that you're all wrong, but it does mean, sweetheart, that you can learn something from this. And I just chose this last week to go through a very powerful come to Jesus, come to Buddha, come to Hillel with a person who's a colleague in South Africa. And we were writing an article together and it fell apart. And I didn't understand what was falling apart, but I knew we were working under a deadline. And I knew that she had asked me to go ahead and finish the article, and I did. But I felt there was such a disconnect. And because disconnections can lead to misunderstanding, we both were angry at each other. So what I did, instead of just saying she's bad, I'm good, or she's, doing that kind of bifurcation thing, I just said, I want to know. I want to hear your story. I want to understand where you're coming from. And it was beautiful. I cried. And as a child, I was taught at age 3, don't you dare cry, they'll hit you harder. I wept as I was listening to her because the separation for her, and I want to talk more, I don't want to reveal anything said in confidence, but what happens when pressure comes to trauma survivors is it's easier to go back to the old pattern of understanding sometimes than it is to say, wait a minute, I choose in this moment to ask, what can I learn in this moment? How can I open my heart in this moment? And I literally said at the beginning of this conversation, I'm here to open my heart. I'm not here to judge. And as I listened, one of the things I learned is when it comes to conversations between women who are ethnic and not ethnic, women who are deemed in America as people of color are not people of color. One of the old patterns we can go back to for the white person, which I didn't think I was doing, but I certainly looked at myself after that, was superiority. And I looked at myself, I said, I know how to write articles. I've written many articles. I know how to deal with deadlines, all this stuff, and I'm going to write the article. But what she was hearing was, I'm not being valued. My voice as a woman of color is not being valued. And she was seeing me as the white woman who had all of this attitude and privilege. And I wept when I heard that. I wept because I could see the way she could see that in me. And in the end, she was able to see some things about herself too. What I'm trying to say here is there's something in us, recovery people, that we need to get free of the trauma bond. Or for me, I want to talk about this later, I call it trauma entrapment. Because as an attorney, I feel like I was trapped. I didn't choose to bond with the person who, my father, who was incesting me. I was trapped and I had no choice. But we'll talk about that more. From what I'm asking both of you is, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but what is it in us? What was it in you? And what in that moment when you were a young mother? And Denise, you were with your mother yesterday and you were able to say, Mom, and this is the first time I've heard you say this, Denise. It's beautiful. I congratulate you. It's huge, huge. You did that. What is it in us that calls us to do that? What do you guys think?
So for me was the whys. I
Okay.
needed to understand why God allowed a pastor to be like this. Like, are you serious? You tell us in church we need to love. Is this really what loves look like? So I remember I became curious. And I think Holly and Denise, you could tell me your thoughts here, but I think that a lot of times we're looking for answers, and some people just choose to look for these answers differently than others. And it's in whatever the adrenaline it's seeking for. And sometimes it's like a coping mechanism. I want to say that I relied on faith, but also in the community. I knew my mom couldn't tell me about my children, so I started asking the pediatrician. I remember I was very making sure my son had, like, I would not use secondhand for my son because he was the first time. And a doctor said, why didn't you get him those Barney sneakers? He would have liked them better than this, because that's his childhood. And holding that and understanding and bringing it back, allowing people to teach me, looking at curiosity, because I knew that I was not brought up in the typical family environment. And understanding that I could do it better. Saying a little bit of what Denise, I just went to Puerto Rico a couple months ago, and I'm 43, and for the first time, I was able to see my father in a whole different environment that I'm used to. He did not set me down for 4 hours to speak to me about God and all this stuff. I told him, meet me in the park. And we're playing. It was beautiful. We went to eat. It was beautiful. And I'm actually waiting for Father's Day. That's going to be my gift for him. That moment that I want to continue to relive. And I believe that part of healing is looking for curiosity. It's understanding the whys and not judging them, but understanding. And then with kindness, helping them. I guess that part of what I do is that they don't know. I go through this with my mom too. They don't know, and I'm able to say, hey, that didn't feel good because of me. I'm working on this. Can you please help
Right.
me and not do that? So yeah.
And they're able to see you when you say that.
They able to see me because I've also created limits in saying, if this continues, then I'm going to have to step back. And because I have already stepped back, I'm the only person in my family who live in Boston. I have some in Florida, upstate New York, and Puerto Rico. No, if somebody comes to Boston, they call him Priscilla because I'm in Massachusetts. And they know I will not answer the phone. I will send them nice messages. And whenever they're ready, we could talk it out. But always protecting my heart, finding ways to grow, and finding that moment that we can both agree on. And it's okay to disagree, but how do we still love each other? Let's just leave it in the parking lot and just enjoy the basketball game.
Sounds great. Thank you. Denise, what were you going to say?
I don't know.
Sorry.
No. It's all good because it was right there. I just want to give Denise a chance to like maybe start playing your way into what you were thinking. What's going on right now?
I was thinking about when she mentioned that she wants to bring herself to that place of love. Like we don't have love with my mom. We love is not present, that we don't have a loving, nurturing place that we can go. I mean, I don't even imagine it or try to imagine it. She's just not a nurturer. And I got used to that when I was a child. I got nurturing elsewhere or whatever. And so it's just interesting to me how different our experiences are, basically.
And yet there's something going on here that I see between the two of you. You're both seeking the love that a trauma surviving child always deserves. We never deserve abuse. We always deserve love. And you're just going about it in different ways. Denise, you did a very brave thing yesterday to
Right.
be true to yourself and allow yourself to have feelings of anger, which has scared the bejesus out of you in the past.
Right.
And now you're able to say to your mother, Mom, I want to say this. And she rolled her eyes or looked in the other direction, but you continued. That was courageous. And I feel like what Priscilla is saying is she's looking for love with this narcissistic father in places that are safe for both of them. And
Right.
you look for love in another equally courageous way to Priscilla, which was to say, I'm here with my mother. One of the scariest places to be in a car with somebody because you can't escape. And I've learned that about trauma survivors. And yet you were able to say to your mom, Mom, this is what happened. Mom, this is what happened.
Facts, with intellect, not with love. I'm not
Yeah,
trying to love her or,
Who were you loving, girl?
I always have told her that, or I've always hold in my mind that she did the best that she could. I don't judge her. She sent us to live with her mother when she had a nervous breakdown when my real father passed away. And I knew Mimi didn't like kids. Our grandmother did not like kids. So I know where my mom's inability to be loving and nurturing comes from. So I don't expect it, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think like so this is the only child and adult memory that I have with my father at 43.
Right.
Because all the other memories were not good. My son was 9 years old when my father was still trying to hit me because I was not in alignment with his beliefs. And I was always, what I found myself, Denise, is being angry. And we were always fighting because, and I remember when, maybe a couple years ago, I said, wow, this whole time, I was in survival mode. I wasn't defiant. I wasn't rebellious. I was defiant. I was finding a way to speak what I couldn't understand. And now that I'm an adult and I have now my safe space, I create that safe space. And one of the things that I did is find his whys. And he was also, they call it, and not so long ago, he was like the black sheep of the house. And I remember asking my aunt the other day, was he the black sheep, or was his behaviors made him feel like he was the black sheep? Right? Because a narcissistic person will always become the victim or would justify why he's the way he is, but never put himself at fault. Never.
Right.
So what I did is create a safe space. My father, I actually said this a couple of minutes right before we got in. I don't even get in the car with him because getting in the car with him was very fearful. He will act like we were going down the mountain in Puerto Rico.
Right.
And to this day, I can still see sometimes on his voice when he's speaking about my mother or when he's speaking about certain things. He tries to blame everybody, but he was an absent father. I don't have pictures with my father. I don't have cute memories, but this last experience that I have, I still have that idea of we can still rebuild. Now I want to tell my children, and yesterday we were doing some rocks in my family. We tried to do like family things every Sunday or whatnot. So we were doing painting rocks. And as I was taking the pictures, I saw a picture of my father in our wall. And I said, even and my mom is also in Puerto Rico, but my kids still know who grandma and grandpa is because I planted that in them. I make
Right.
sure that they understand, even at distance, how do we do this? And I also had to create some boundaries, and they may say, oh, this, a lot of things about it, but how do I protect that? How do I still build on and tell my children this is what I wish it would have looked like, but this is what it is, and it's nobody's fault. But we can make
Right.
it better. Let's make a legacy out of this, a healthy one. Yeah.
I see what you two are doing is love. And Denise, I want to say the love that I feel you display, as we say, take what you like and leave the rest. This might not be accurate for you, but you were loving yourself.
Right.
That was a
Right.
beautiful, brilliant thing you did. You were using your voice. You were saying, I am here. I am safe enough to say what's true for me. And I'm really proud of you. That was huge. And what Priscilla is doing is saying with her children, I'm here. We're safe together. We can notice that this is where we came from. And we can notice in this moment of creation that we can be ourselves. So Denise, so both of you, I want to congratulate you for that.
Yes, I think Denise, I take my hats off to you for being able to be in that space and go back. I go to Puerto Rico, and before I go, I'm already feeling anxious because
Right.
I'm not sure. And I go knowing that I'm coming back.
Right. Same thing. I travel 2 hours south to visit my mom. Unless she's at the cottage, then it's only an hour. But right now she's not because it's cold there. But I get anxious. I smoke a million cigarettes when I try to
Right.
limit my cigarette smoking, But on my way to my mom's house, I'll smoke a whole pack in a 2-hour drive. I mean, I will. So, yeah,
And what is that doing for you in terms of
it gives
your
me a sore
feelings, your
throat and
survival?
pulse in my ears, and it's horrible. It's one of my self-sabotaging
Mhm.
addictive behaviors that still have. I still.
But I thank you for that too, because I'm 79 and I still have self-sabotaging behaviors. The thing that's changing is I'm more able to say to myself, sweetheart, it's okay. It's okay. For 17 years in that environment, there was no modeling, there were no choices. Now you can see that you're hurting yourself. It's okay. You can step back and ask for help. You can step back and rest. You can step back and just go outside for a walk with your flowers, all of these things. So I feel like what the three of us are coming out with here is we had trauma which affected us in a way that could have told us, thou shalt be just like us. And the three of us chose two things. One, I'm not going to be like them. And two, I'm not going to damn them.
Right.
That's a big deal because the one up, one down stuff to me continues to traumatize me. Just as I was talking about with this co-author with me, it was easy for me to just slot into all of those categories about being a writer, knowing how to write and all of that stuff. But I stopped that and I said, sweetheart, something else is going on here. Find out, open my heart, find out and learn. And when I did, it broke my heart. And it broke my heart because of what we do to each other, the
Right.
harm we do to each other. And Priscilla, there's something that Denise and I have talked about a lot. It's a 4-word quote from oh dear, Leaves of Grass. The author of that is, anyway, he's an American poet, and he said he had a stroke, and he said 4 words afterwards. He said, "Be curious, Walt Whitman. Be curious, not judgmental."
Right.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I
About
got that from
yourselves?
Holy Mary. That's
Yeah,
the way that I learned that not to judge was Holy Mary. I
Holy
grew up
Mary, Mother of
Catholic.
God. Yeah. So
Yeah,
what?
Holy Mary, Mother of God. Yeah.
Tell us more about that. What's the source?
She was the good mother. She was the good, she loved children. She cared for children. She did it, and I grabbed onto that as my example of the good mother
Mhm.
as a
I love
very
how you
young
did that.
person. Yeah.
You did this with the example of the good mother. I love that. Yeah, yeah.
From
And that's
above,
what you did.
from spiritual. And
Right.
when you ask about that, what inside of us makes us do, you think that, to decide not to hit, to decide not to banter with or use words to hurt. Uh,
Mhm.
that is my higher self, my spiritual knowing that that's wrong, and I had to come to that understanding many times. There was a time when I almost molested a kid, but I told myself, no, that is wrong. And I, was able to not.
That's
And
great. You
Absolutely.
can own that. Thank you so much for owning that, Denise. That's also very brave. Priscilla, what were you starting to say?
Yes, thank you so much, Denise. Yes, I remember that my example of my modeling example, it was my aunt who was a Catholic, and she's a great mom, right? And then I have my other aunt who every time now I'm able to say, like, you guys, when I write my papers or something that say who inspired you, these, their kids are doing great. And I'm sure they had their turbulence in their home. I have mine, but for the perfect world, they look great, right? The picture, it looks great. And, I still can go to them and ask them. They were Catholic and Baptist. And one of the things that I told my father now that we're building this better relationship, and he still gives me advices about family, is curiosity without judging, but also loving with the fear of losing, right? Like one of the biggest fear that I have, I don't know if my father will ever understand the amount of damage, or I don't like to call it damage. I like to call it more like, I guess, the inappropriate behaviors that he did. I don't know if he will ever understand or forgive me, or forgive himself for what happened, because I don't even think he realized what he's done.
Right.
But I do
True.
believe, I don't ever want him to die thinking what could have been or this could have been. I want him to, at least we tried. And hold him now. I think we're being able to hold each other in a space where, nope, if it's not positive, I'm not hearing it.
Right.
This doesn't do me good. And I remember one day he said to me, I was a disgrace. And honestly, like, as we speak, I don't owe none of his stuff because I'm a woman. And in those times, like, I just need a hug. I just need my dad. And my everything that I do is like I'm daddy's little girl and reminding him. And I think that those things create those spaces, but he's set on his mind. And I think Denise, like you, for many times this was happening. It's just that now it's a little bit different. But there's been times, I remember last time we were gonna go eat ice cream. I'm like, oh no, I'm not going, because the day before he did something that I was like, and he said to me, I need you to come and say bye to me before you leave. So I left. And he was holding to that. He was like, you left, you didn't say bye. And I said, when I arrive in Massachusetts and I have time, I'm going to tell you my whys. But it took
Mhm.
me about 2 weeks before I called him and I said, I'm ready to talk about it.
Right.
So I was able to, it's like I think healing from emotional trauma bond is understanding what happened and why it happened, and creating that safety blanket for you to protect yourself and the future generation.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And you're looking at the time, Denise?
Yeah. 3 more
Yeah.
minutes or so.
Yeah, I think we got about 5 minutes because we started
It's been
about 10.
wonderful, guys.
It
Yeah.
is. And this is what it is. It's simply walking each other home.
Right.
Home is not just where the heart is, but home is where the love is. And I see all three of us looking for love at last in all the right places. There's that old song about looking for love in all the wrong places. I became expert at that. I looked for love in the wrong men, the wrong relationships, the wrong, all of these things that didn't have permanent, safe love. But now I'm about the deeper, the safer love. And that takes courage. Do you guys notice that?
Oh,
The
yes.
courage it takes?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I mean, I don't, I, I'm challenged myself. I want romance in my life, but I also don't. So,
This is a
That's
scary
okay.
place.
right.
It is, because what's going to come out if you get in a relationship, Denise or Priscilla or Holly Elissa? What's going to come out?
Right. All your triggers.
And maybe not a person that understand. I've been blessed. I have a husband who I'm like, oh my God, he probably has a space in heaven, because he
That's
could
great.
deal with everything. And it feels safe to tell him, hey, it's your this triggers me because I'm doing this now. And I'm going through these things. And I have this thing in my home that when I'm in the bathroom, people cannot even knock on my door. Leave me alone. And like, yeah, so but if you guys thinking about love, I think being transparent and saying, like, I have these triggers, I have this hidden triggers I still don't know,
Mhm.
and
Right.
they could come up anytime. Can you write it out?
Yes. And that's a
One
hard
of yeah.
conversation to have, it really takes an openness and courage, and you have to feel lovable as well, which I do know I'm lovable just because I have so many kids love me. So I do know there's lovable here, but I don't know if there's peer lovable.
Hmm. So let us, as we go toward the closure of this time, and I'm going to suggest we get back together because we haven't, no judgment of negative at all, but we've got so much to explore when it comes to trauma bonding. What that means, how we can look at it in terms of healing and practices. What I want to ask each one of us is this: what is something, it doesn't have to be a conclusion at all, but what's just one thing from your heart, your soul, or your intellect, whatever you feel most connected to now, that you'd like to share with people who are listening, who are trauma survivors, who come to this program because they know they're going to hear people telling the truth without shaming and without blaming and without inflaming. So what is it that any one of us, the three of us, would like to say as we conclude?
Okay, I think state the values, what's important to you, and knowing your whys. I think when we know our whys and we are transparent to ourselves, it gives us hope. And be curious. Once you know it, find help, get help. And I want to say thank you so much, you guys, for inviting and creating this space, because people need to listen. I think that when we are curious and we're look for help, we realize we're not alone.
Right,
And that's powerful.
right. And that's why I come here week after week for the last 5 years. And really, only we've had Zoom for, is it 2 years?
2020. So, well,
Zoom? The Zoom.
which 2020 was when the pandemic started. So probably
Right.
about 4 years, maybe 4.5.
Is when, but we didn't have Zoom meetings. We would just type in our responses to you, remember?
Right.
So how
Yeah.
long ago did we start the
I
Zoom
don't
meeting?
know, girl, but go. I hear you. So, but what were
Yeah.
you going to say about what's true for you?
Oh, what's true for me is that I come here because I want to heal, and I want to put effort to healing, and that I am learning and growing. I had such a positive example yesterday that I am learning and growing, and it's so wonderful.
Yeah. God bless. And for me, the hardest thing for me is to fully love me. And my desire, my heart's desire, is to have the courage, which I have, to name, face, see, and ask for help on all those things that get in my way of being able to love. I have a neurodiverse son whom I love very much. I love him unconditionally. And when I'm with him, why is it so easy for me to understand and love whatever he does, including when his oppositional defiant disorder gets really triggered and he's really so skilled at it? And I do that more often with me. And what I want to say out of love to myself is it's okay to be 79 years old, approaching 80 the last day of this year, and still be learning. I would rather still be learning and have an open heart than I would say, well, I've arrived. I want to always be learning. That's my desire. And that's love. Love for me is being able to say, sweetheart, every week, every day, I can learn how to feel love when indeed I came from a system that couldn't love. My mother's mental illness prevented her in many ways from being able to see outside of her own mental illness. My father's narcissism stopped him from being able to see anybody else, to even interact with anybody else. I think one of my sisters who's a psychiatrist said to me, Holly Elissa, you talk with him. He talks with you. He doesn't talk with anybody. I just want to give myself credit for having gone as far as I could
Mhm.
with a man who had lived his life shut off. So I want to thank Priscilla for coming and Janice for being here. And I will say, let's keep doing this. If Priscilla were on since this is East Coast United States, we're on every Monday at 3. Join us when you can. And Janice, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I loved it. It was really fun to have other ideas and other thoughts and, you know, yeah, I love it.
Definitely. Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me and having me in this space. And I'm open for it. I'm also learning. This is how me and Holly connected. And I'm
Yes.
knocking on doors. I'm being bold and saying, like, how do I, right? Because we need each other. And when we don't come from the spaces that are able to teach us, then we need to knock on doors and say, teach me. How do I and I know Holly and Denise can sometimes it could feel scary. It feels scary for me too a lot of times. And I'm usually saying I apologize before I ask questions. I'm learning how to be bold and how to grow, how to heal, and how to be okay with even people saying I can't help. It's
Right.
okay.
Gotcha, girl. I gotcha. So love to everybody, love to our listeners. And we will, 2 of us, 3 of us, one of us be back every week,
Yep.
starting at 3 o'clock. And the topics flow from our souls. If one of you brings a topic, like sometimes Denise says, oh man, I went to this march and here's what I want to say, or oh, yesterday I was with my mom. That I just believe life on life's terms gives us so much healing opportunity. So Priscilla, in Italian, I would say tanta mille grazie. Denise Rokiki, I don't know, Polish girlfriend. Do you know any Polish?
I do not know any babushka, which is a scarf that you
Babushka.
wore over your head. That's my Polish word.
In Spanish, we say gracias.
Gracias.
Gracias. Gracias. Okay, my friend. See you next week. And
Yep.
to all of our listeners, we are with you. We hear you.
Yep.
We see you. And if you want to come on and be the fourth square rectangle here, you're
You're
welcome,
welcome.
honey. You're
Yes.
welcome. And if you want to come on and just chat is chatting. It's connecting. We want to connect.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody, so much. I'm going to
Thank
sign
you.
us off. This will come up, and let's put this on all of our social networks so people have a chance.
I can't do that yet because my mom is on my page and
Oh,
she'll
right,
look, and
sweetheart. You know
I don't
what? Maybe
want
we
her.
can. I hear you.
I guess you can block individuals, but I just don't want, that's why I don't post the link because I
I
don't
hear
want her to
you.
show up here.
You know what? We can talk about that. How can we share with people in a safe way?
Right.
In a safe way. Okay, well, let's talk about that. And Priscilla and I can do our network stuff. I am going to sign us off and say thank you. So let me stop the recording. And am I sure I want to stop the recording? I talk this stuff out, Priscilla, because I don't do technology that well. So if I talk myself
No,